My name is Helena Holmes, Helena Holmes Bass on YouTube and Facebook. I am in the Wankers and Starman, and you are watching Case for Bass.
We have a fantastic episode again today for Case for Bass. We have Helena Holmes, and she is a bass player in some tribute bands she's going to tell us about. And we're going to talk about all the passion for bass and what brings her to it and what's going on with her. And I'm going to pass back to Anthony for the first question.
Okay, first and foremost, give a big round of applause for Helena Holmes of the Wankers and of Starman.
Thank you.
Okay, first, welcome. Thank you very much for being with us.
Sure.
Okay, so my question to you is a very simple one. Did the bass find you, or did you find the bass?
The bass found me. 13 years old, boyfriend at the time, played Ramble On by Zeppelin. And I said, wow, what's that?
Hold on a second.
John Paul Jones.
John Paul Jones, you got to give.
Every time a legend gets mentioned, we break the ice.
He's really the reason I play. So I didn't start playing at 13. I didn't start playing until I was 17. But I just remember walking near the beach by my house, and he probably had a boombox at the time. This was the late 80s, and I was like, what is that? What is that sound that's making that melody? And he said, oh, that's bass. I didn't know what bass was. So that kind of stuck in my head. I got very, very into Led Zeppelin and just really gravitated toward John Paul Jones. And then at 17, decided I wanted to do what he did.
Awesome. So what were you listening to at the time as far as John Paul Jones? You said was the one that first got your attention to the tone of the bass. And after that, what else were you listening to?
After that, ran the gamut. I mean, I was definitely into in the 80s, especially the early 80s, mid 80s, new wave, 80s popular music. I still love new wave, even though a lot of it is synth bass. I've covered some synth bass on my YouTube channels. I love that. But I would say, Grand Funk Railroad, Joe Jackson, the punk band Fear, the Meters. I definitely popular music. And then when I started, I'll use the term lightly, dating him, his father was very into classic rock. So Steve Miller and AC/DC and the Styx, I know, Paradise Theater, a lot of people hate that album. I loved it at the time. Because I think that was when the Styx started going down. I still like it. I think Too Much Time in My Hands was on that album. So I really started delving into classic rock, I guess, in my early teens. Before that, it was popular music that was playing on the radio. We had MTV when it first came out. I think my mom paid the guy to, on her pole outside her house. You could get, so you pay the guy to get all the channels. I don't know if you remember that. If you guys,
We do.
We were there before.
All right.
Yep.
I'm aging myself. So that, and I still love that stuff. I still do. But classic rock, I guess. And then, as time went on, funk, Steely Dan, I loved in my later teens. I still do. Yeah, I mean, the Chili Peppers, I still do. They're still making relevant music. I know it's a cliche for a bass player to say they like Flea and the Chili Peppers, but I do. I know Anthony Kiedis.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There's definitely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, so and I love classic R&B. I just did a bass video. I haven't posted it yet. A lot of people might not know a band called Sky. Call Me. Like I love.
Call me if you really want to talk. And also another great bass song from him. Get a chance to listen to it. There's a solo in the middle that goes. But yes, Sky is awesome.
So like that type of stuff, like I didn't even, I hear something like that and I don't necessarily know the band, but Slave.
Oh my God. Touch of Love.
Yeah.
I love
a lot of diversity going on.
R&B.
Yes.
But I just love, it makes me happy. It makes me dance if I'm driving. Typical classic rock, typical 80s, but then also I kind of veer off into a little bit deeper R&B and funk.
Awesome.
One of the things about being a low ender is the wide range of music that you can just adapt, love, play, and it doesn't affect who you are as a player. That you're on this searching path. You find, you listen. It doesn't matter what's around it, but you catch the groove and want to ride it.
Oh yeah. And I mean, I love obviously live bass and I love funk bass, but I do also appreciate synth bass. Someone had to sit and program that.
Sure.
I covered a Howard Jones song and I've covered, I've covered synth bass and it's challenging and it's fun and it's rewarding. So, all mediums of that bottom end, I appreciate.
Awesome. Actually, you should watch Howard Jones with Nick Beggs from Kaja Goo Goo because Nick Beggs plays all the synth parts on bass.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I was talking to someone about this recently. We were talking about how a lot of what you thought was guitar, for example, Joy Division and New Order, that was a bass. That was a bass part. Yep, those are all bass parts. And when you hear Blue Monday, you'll hear those guitar parts are bass parts.
Okay.
So they'll have the synth play the lower part. They'll play the synth will play the rhythm, and then the bass will play the melody.
Oh, that's interesting. I did not know that.
Yep, so you'll have that in a lot of the synth music. Yes, it's very interesting. All right, I want to ask you about your Delight shirt as well, since you're wearing one. Talk about that and the history of how you got involved in you mentioned getting involved in funk, and then you found Delight, of course, is the home of Kool and the Gang. Tell us about that.
I just love, one day maybe I'll cover Open Sesame. I don't know, that's a tall order, but yeah, I just love Kool and the Gang, and I just happened to, I just did some little deep dive in Kool and the Gang and discovered that this record label, which was formed, I think, in the late 60s. I don't know if they didn't discover them, I don't think, but they signed them. And they were on the label through the mid 80s. And I just thought it was a cool story. This label didn't have much claim to fame besides Kool and the Gang. They had, I think, one or two other bands that I hadn't heard of. And as an aside, it's spelled differently. There's a band, if you can call them a band, I think it was all electronic, called Delight.
Oh, of course.
Early 90s. World Click is a Desert Island disc. I recommend anyone. That's mainly samples, but it is outstanding.
Can I tell you something? That album is classic. A friend of mine used to manage them. He managed
Oh,
them and Diggable Planets at the same time. And before that album was even released, I remember getting a copy of it on what they call that white label prints when there's
uh-huh.
no artwork. And I just heard the album. I was like, this album is going to blow up.
Yeah.
It's gonna, and it did. And it just went.
It's such a good album. So this is a little tribute, even though it's spelled differently. It's not related to the band, but
Sure.
I don't think they don't get really much credit. You know, Grooves in the Heart is still out there, but that album is really good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We're big Bootsy fans.
Yes. Bootsy.
Yeah, they sampled Grooves in the Heart. That's a go-to bass line for me at sound checks.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Awesome.
I hear you.
So, what was your first instrument? Like when you say you started playing bass, you were familiar with the whole John Paul Jones thing. So, what was the instrument that made you say, "I want to do this for the rest of my life"? What was the first one that you grabbed onto?
It was bass. Well, it wasn't the first instrument I played. That was definitely bass. Was like, okay, I found my instrument. But my parents made me play piano, starting it, and I can still read. So I'm making my daughter, who turned 10 today, play piano. She doesn't necessarily want to, but I know the value in learning that language. So I'm kind of doing what my parents did. I'm not on top of her practice for an hour every day. But I just wanted to stick with it a little bit. So from 8 to maybe 7 to 10 years old, I played piano. I'm not going to lie, I didn't love it. It was like, okay, I got to practice, but I just see the value in it.
There's a greater good going on.
Yeah, and I know about language acquisition. I got my degree in linguistics, and before puberty, you actually learn language differently, and that's why kids pick up languages much more quickly than adults. It's processed on the opposite side of your brain, so that's why before puberty is the time. So I can still read Hebrew, for example. I don't practice Hebrew at all, but I can still read it. So if I open, biblical Hebrew, I can still read piano, basic, but I can help my daughter. And I haven't practiced it, I just see the value in it. And when I took piano, I don't know if they do this anymore. They don't do it with my daughter, and it's a shame. It's kind of like flashcards with math, a lost art. My teachers made me play to a metronome, and they don't do that with my younger one, and that just set the tone for me. When I practice, when I warm up, I do it to a metronome. I'll just sit and watch TV, and I have a metronome going.
It's really important that you learn the value of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does it mean you have to be dead on? No, you got to breathe. We're humans, but I really am a big proponent in just playing to a click or playing to a metronome. It doesn't mean you can, because then you kind of got it. It gets ingrained in you. And I've just played with too many, especially drummers, who have the chops, but a lot of speeding up and slowing down. And when you grow up playing to a metronome, then I have an internal, I could feel it. It's like I could feel there's a natural breathing, but when it's beyond natural,
it takes the emotion out of the technical.
If the drummer doesn't have, I don't care how good your chops are, if you don't have groove or you're not in the pocket,
nothing else matters.
Nothing else matters at that point. It really doesn't.
A lot of drummers just get emotional and expect you to glom onto it, and that's a roller coaster ride. I'm not buying a ticket for.
Yep.
No, and it's not enjoyable. I mean, to me, I'm the type of bass player I really lock with drummers, and I've been told that drummers enjoy playing with me, and I really lock with the kick drum. So if the drummer's not good, or a lot of wavering timing, or just doesn't really dig in, doesn't hit that kick drum nice and solidly, it's not worth it. I'd rather stay home and do bass videos.
I'm going to comment on one of your videos. You guys went into, he starts off with put cut do. You were going into George Michael Wham's what's the name of the song?
Everything She Wants.
Everything She Wants.
As a joke.
He started as a joke with Billie Jean.
Billie Jean. I'm surprised. I guess that's somewhere online. Yeah.
Yep. So I watched that, but I also liked how your guitar player just jumped right into the chords. Just jumped right in, and the drummer stayed right there, and the audience kept on dancing. Yeah. That's the part that was really impressive. So then when you went from the Billie Jean into the Wham track, everything was seamless.
Yeah. I mean, you're only as good to me as your drummer, and he's very good. He's got pocket and groove, and I'm also a huge fan of funk guitar and Nile Rodgers and that right
there
hand.
You go.
I'm almost a bigger fan of funk rhythm, than I am of lead. You know, I guess because rhythm is in my soul. So like, I covered "He's the Greatest Dancer" by Sister Sledge, and that's Nile Rodgers.
And that is Nile Rodgers.
That guitar. I'm not gonna pick up guitar. I love, but that guitar riff, his rhythm, makes me want to play guitar. It's just so
addictive.
Oh, it's just so. I'm a sucker for that. And the guitar player in the Wankers has that. He's got that right funk rhythm hand. I'm a huge fan. Yeah.
Anthony, I'm going to ask a question.
Sure, go ahead.
An interesting point I always want to hear is, okay, you started at 17, John Paul Jones, you picked up a bass. What made you, I'll ask Anthony's question in a different way. Did you find the band, or did the band find you?
Trying to think.
Like were you a high school jam band in a garage, and you just wanted to keep playing?
I think I started going to open mics, and I don't know how I did that because I was under 21, I guess.
That takes a lot of guts.
And then a guy that owned a music store was at the open mic and hooked me up with a guitar player who then we started jamming together. I think people found me, but then at a certain point I started going online on Harmony Central, I think it was called, and looking for bands. Went to University of Vermont my freshman year.
All right.
And I guess I don't know. I don't even remember how we found each other, but I was in an all-girl punk, but there was actually a male in the band called Me Jane. This is in 1994, 95.
Tarzan.
Yeah, and it was still, but played on a couple of stages. So I guess some bands found me. I found some bands for many.
But you stuck with this, like something inside you said, "I'm doing this. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna find players."
I got a little obsessed. Yeah, sitting in my bedroom, or sitting in the living room, just doing warm-up exercises, which I still do. And I think any interview I've read or heard with musicians, from Eddie Van Halen to whomever, the hours they spent, and I see with my daughter, and I remember myself at piano, you got to have self-motivation. Like, I didn't care about piano. No one told me to practice bass and to sit. I wanted to do it.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
I wanted to get better and better and better.
I found it in college when I was jamming on guitar, and my friend left all his gear in my room, and the next thing I know is I'm picking up "Wish You Were Here" and playing the whole album, and I'm picking up Zeppelin 2 and I'm playing the whole record, and it's like I spent all this time on guitar, but maybe it's all about the bass, and I just I couldn't put it down. And then after he left all his gear in my room, he let me borrow his "Standing in the Shadows of Love," the Motown book, and it just drove me deeper into the bass. Even though I know guitar, I can play guitar. Having fun is about putting on a 4-string, hitting the low end, cranking the amp, and bringing it out to an audience. To this day, to this last weekend, as a matter of fact. So
yep, I agree.
How does your bass playing impact your performance? I noticed that you wore the bright red pants. So there was one theme that you had in the video where the guys were wearing black and red, but you had the red ties and you had the bright red pants. One of the comments on Facebook was, "Why does she have to stand out so much?"
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I commented because she's a great bass player wearing bright red pants.
That's cool. Thank you.
Well, Anthony's a standout player too. So
thank you, Anthony. Thanks for defending me. First of all, I affectionately call it fake book. People can comment from their couches, and
Most funny you say that. I call it fake book. And whenever someone makes a comment, years ago I used to do the political thing. I don't do it anymore. I always say to them, if you really stand behind your statement, here's my address. Come meet me.
Right. Well, I've said to a couple people, but I don't have the energy necessarily to get into it. I'm like, okay, let me see your videos. And then it's usually, it's radio silence. I'm like, well, let me see your bass videos. Maybe I could learn something from you. And
exactly.
Nothing.
Exactly. Most of the time it's nothing. Good for you. That's awesome.
Yeah, so, the red pants, it's a performance. It's a visual performance. When you're playing theaters, which is what I play now, people are paying to see us. You got to look different than the audience. And
you do.
I really do believe, and it took me many years to get to this point, that it is a visual performance as well.
It is.
And, it's different. When you watch my bass videos on YouTube or Facebook, is people are like, look at the camera, move around. That look, when I'm focusing on nailing a track album perfect, that's my focus. When I'm performing live, I'm playing well. I'm not doing album perfect tracks, and I'm performing. I'm moving around. I'm jumping. I'm leaning back.
Good for you.
I'm smiling. Because
you're inflecting. You're inflecting. It's the biggest part of this.
And you know what? To me, if you're having fun, that transfers. It's a feedback loop. It's if the band looks really bored, the audience feels that.
The audience definitely feels that.
Yeah.
Regardless of how much they're drinking, they still feel it.
Right. So I'm going to keep wearing my red pants and doing what I do live.
No, keep doing what you're doing. Actually, I went to see a band, U2 Nation, about 2.5 weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, and I ended up. A friend of mine made these customized tie-dyed overalls, and I wore them that night just for the hell of it. And I remember seeing the band play, and there was this Irish woman who says to me, "I'm sorry, but they look like they don't want to be here. Your overalls are getting more attention than the band itself." And I sort of. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's it's like, well, wait a second. The band should take center. It's like if your clothes are getting more attention than the band, you go, yeah.
Yep, but it didn't help that the singer kept saying, "Does anyone want to hear anything other than U2 songs?"
Oh no!
I'm like, dude, you're in a U2 tribute band.
Oh no!
And you're asking the audience, "Do you want to hear anything other than U2?"
That's what it is. I mean, there's an old statement that says, "Stay in your lane."
Yep.
And if you're going to call yourself U2, there's not much variance. I mean, where are you going to pull out you can pull out a Thin Lizzy song, Dar Williams, you can pull out like a couple of people, but if you don't stick in that genre, especially if you're a U2 band, you know what I'm saying? And Helen and I we were quickly talking about this before about how tribute acts are engulfing the mid to low size audience venues.
They are.
And the smarter bands that want to have diversity, like the Wankers, it's just a great name because you can absorb the whole British vibe without even defining a decade. And it's really smart. I mean, I got friends that are the most fantastic musicians, but they're going to get booked being in tribute bands, literally wearing the makeup and the costume and going out and emulating, the act. And the bump and grind that I kind of put into my own head was, I was doing that at 14. I didn't know I could make a career of it.
Right.
And you take these deep dives into musical explorations, and you hear Jocko, and you hear Marcus Miller, and you hear other things besides what's going to be commercial 80s rock radio. I mean, if I just focused on that, I'd be the best Ian Hill Judas Priest I could be. And you don't have to really know how to play bass to do that. And the running line Anthony and I have, Helena, is who was the bass player in Uriah Heep?
Who's the bass player in Uriah Heep?
and we do know now it's Davey Rimmer, and Davey, we're coming for you. We definitely want to hear your story. Yep. And it all comes down to your motivation to play. I mean, and you have to filter that into whether you want to be a commercially viable bass player. You're going to have to focus in on what the market's playing.
Yeah, I mean, the tribute band thing, it has taken over. I mean, what I've seen, local bars, smaller bars don't have tribute bands because they can't afford tribute bands. It's just not set up.
Oh, it's agencies.
I still see definitely bars have more typical cover bands. It's the tribute bands I've been in. This is the fourth, if you include an 80s band I was in. It's theaters and outdoor events. It's not smaller bars.
Well, talk about that, actually. Talk about how you went from this John Paul Jones bass player into tribute bands. Like, did you skip the whole cover band thing and just jump right into tribute bands?
I did. No, I did the cover band thing for decades. I did the hell out of it. In fact, just recently, since COVID, I backed off on doing as many bar gigs. I just got burnt out after every weekend for 20, 30 years. But what's funny, for a while I didn't want to do cover bands at all. I only wanted to do originals.
That was going to be my next question. Actually, I wanted to ask you: do you write material at all? But answer the question first, and then let me finish your statement, and then talk about the original part. Because I want to ask about it and how it applies to the piano, teaching your daughter how to learn piano. Because you mentioned that you wanted to learn piano. You know how to read still. You know how to read Hebrew still. So did that ever apply to you writing material at all or not?
No, I mean, I write bass lines. I've written many, many bass lines I'm proud of to original material over the years. So no, I mean, I've helped to what's the word I'm looking for? Not write the whole song, but definitely
contribute,
orchestrate a little bit.
Arrange.
Arrange. Thank you. But no, I didn't. I haven't ventured into just writing whole pieces on my own. No, I haven't. And yeah.
So you feel that you're really, I don't want to say you're a side person, because look, as bass players, our job is to support the singer, we're supposed to be the middle between the drummer and all the melody people. So do you really feel that as a bass player, that is your job?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I mean, yeah, I try not to overplay. I definitely take some liberties live, but I don't think anyone you're on. It's like being part of a team. It's when I watch
I'm going to comment
basketball and
I'm going to comment
James
as a
Harden's
fan.
knocking the ball. Yeah,
but listening to your playing, you pack a lot of punch into your notes, and what I hear coming out is you saturate the portion of what you need to contribute. There's a lot of expression going on when you have that space between the notes, and you could hear you're locking with the drum part on when you're covering a song on Facebook that seems to be really popular, and it's not just you playing, but it's your interpretation, and it's really cool to watch because your consistency is fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
It's not like we don't listen. I listen. I
hear
what's going on, I tell Anthony and everybody my superpower is that I overstate the obvious. And you can hear a lot of players. I mean, look, we're a bass podcast. We hear players all over the world copying, mimicking sax leads from Charlie Parker, and they're doing these musical gymnastics all over the place. But the feeling on this podcast, anyway, is you're here to contribute with other human beings, and you're here to feel it, and you're here to put it out. And whenever we end up talking with bass players that really help define a community of being in a band, we always applaud it, we point it out, and we promote it.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. I mean, I'll be the first to say, like, I don't have the chops of a lot of, the next level up. I don't. I can't cop. I love, you asked me before, another album I love, Stanley Clarke. It's a self-titled one. It's a brown cover. It's got Vulcan Princess on it. I gravitate to him, believe it or not, more than Jocko, which is so beautiful, that album.
Yeah.
But
it's part of it.
I can't cop a lot of that. I really can't. I can fake slap. But it's kind of like when I've heard interviews with Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. At this point in my life, I sort of own what I am, and I don't have the time. 2 kids, I don't necessarily, and a full-time job, the time nor the motivation to you start using a pick and get really good at that, or get really much better at slapping. I just kind of own what I do. I don't have the chops or something like. Yeah, I don't.
Because that doubles your value.
Guys.
You're amplifying your value by doing that.
At least you're honest about that, because it's funny, because when I was watching you play Canary in the Coal Mine and Spears and Material World, I noticed that you weren't using a pick. And I said, okay, I wonder if she decided, well, I'm going to just keep it simple. This is what I do, and I'll play what I know, and I'll play it in the way that I'm comfortable with.
Yeah. I can't play with the pick. I mean, I've tried. It feels foreign to me. It just doesn't feel natural. And it hasn't held me back. I haven't, there's really never been an instance where it's like, well, I can't play that song because so, and I'm not, if I were in a Yes, I wouldn't aspire to be in a Yes tribute band. Forget it. I just covered Love Song by The Cure, and someone commented again.
Yeah, I saw that.
A lot of, yeah, you get a lot of. It's funny, for every 99 compliments, one criticism. It's like, oof, it hits. So
that's my word.
one person wrote, well, he played that with a pick, but nice job. And I'm like, well, you know what? This is then my interpretation. I can't play with a pick. I think I did it justice with my fingers, and I am what I am by this point.
Look,
you can't make everyone happy when you play, and honestly, your interpretation is your interpretation, and as long as the audience is, and this is a debate I have with drummers all the time, because a lot of times I get, oh, you move too much, and I say to them, as long as the audience likes it, I don't care what you think.
Right.
As long as the audience likes it, that's all that matters. You're there for the audience. That's what you're there for.
I mean, and as far as what you're talking about, I'm going to tell you that before I grew up, I was a finger pointer. And it was always, the joke is, how many guitar players does it take to change a light bulb? And the answer is 12. 1 to do it, and 11 to point there and stare, go, I can do it better. and there's a lot to that, because the other 11 can't lock in on the importance of the guy who got to change the light bulb. There's only one way in and there's one way out. And when you're playing bass, when you talk about what you're not doing, it only doubles and amplifies the importance of what you are doing. That you're not breaking your stride in order to search something you don't want to go after. And it's to me, it's a big part of bass playing is, look, I get to play songs that I get to do 9 minutes of Voodoo Child and, 8 minutes of Whole Lot of Love and, all these classic songs in a, break apart band. But at the same time, we're not covering the identity of a tribute act or a cultural decade. And, we're like a no safety valve, let the music do the talking act. And, when people are there, they drop their jaw and they go, oh my God, you guys are unbelievable. And, we're who we are. And for us to get into a bigger audience, that's another show for another day at another time. But when it comes to playing the bass, I lay it down as I see it fit. I want to be the record. I want to make sure the audience knows the parts that I'm playing. And I think that's the first directive of making a case for bass.
Yep.
All right, let's go to. Well, go ahead.
I appreciate. I appreciate all.
Okay.
No, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, we're not a pick apart show here. We literally compliment what people do in their bands and amplify who they are, not only as people but as bass players. Like, we're not going to ask here and ask you to talk about Mixolydian exercises in the Sensorian modes, and
we're not interested in that.
We're so not interested in any of that. Where other people want to see you play. You got Facebook for that. You're getting thousands of views and likes and comments on your playing. We're here to talk about what motivates them.
All right, speaking of which, it is now time for us to look at your top three. How many basses do you have?
I have how many? Three.
All right, great. So you're gonna give us your top three of three.
Top three.
Okay.
Top three of
3 to 1.
3 to 1.
This is my top dog. So this is my go-to. This is a Sukop. The guy's name is Steve Sukop.
Where did you find it?
There was a store. I don't think it's there anymore. Rudy's Music.
Yeah, Rudy on 48th Street. Oh, yeah.
48th Street. Is it still there? I don't even know.
We're not sure. No, I think the whole street's dead.
They're not there. It was swallowed up by a bunch of other corporations. Yeah,
Rudy. Yeah, nice.
Yes. So I went in there looking. I went in there specifically looking for a Warwick bass, and I saw this, and I'm like, oh, this looks kind of cool. And I picked this up, and I'm like, I didn't care. The look was secondary. It looked cool, but then when I started playing it, I'm like, forget about the Warwick.
Nice. Can you hold it? Hold it up to the screen again.
The horn on that looks dangerously sharp.
Wow.
It's not. It's not. People joke that I'm like, impaling myself or like. So it's a neck through.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, the gorgeous wood, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, again, it really.
Is it heavy?
To me, no. It's light, and what I love about it, it's weighted perfectly. So I picked up my friend's. Was it an Alembic? What the heck's the super expensive basses that are like thousands of dollars? And I was like, I sat down with it. I'm like, man, this thing feels great. It sounds great. It plays great. And as soon as I picked it up,
your head dropped.
Yeah, so I'm like, you know what? That's part of it. Like, I play enough gigs. I don't want something where it's like I have to hold it up. So it's light. It's weighted perfectly. It's my baby. It's I don't adjust
it's
much.
Cool.
I keep
it is.
What kind of pickups are in it?
2 double coil Bartolinis.
Hey,
nice.
It's active, but it's so well made that even when the battery's dying, it's only perceptible really to me. Like it's a slow burn. It's whereas I have 4 basses, but I'll talk about my top 3. All right. So this is my baby.
4. It's happened.
No, I won't even bring out. Can I get off the screen for a minute and get my
other
one?
Yeah, please.
All right.
Go ahead.
All right. So this is oh my gosh, this is heavy. This is a beast. This is my second favorite. This is a 5-string Music Man from Stingray.
Hold it up.
Anthony, what bass was I talking to you about 3 days ago?
Music Man.
Five string. Candy
yep.
apple.
Yep.
Keep going, except with that staple neck.
So this, now this interesting story about
Very
this.
nice.
I went and looking at Music Man's, and I tried out probably 10, and all the same 5-string Music Man's, and this one was heavier than all the rest and sounded better. So it
Wow.
just goes to show no two, it doesn't matter if it's the same model or even the same year. If something is made out of wood,
they're all
no
different.
2 trees, no 2 cuts of wood are exactly the same. So
no.
Does it make it to shows?
So I played this exclusively for years, and then I got pregnant, and it's extremely heavy. I'd say
it looks very heavy. It looks very heavy.
I have a thick strap, a wide strap. There's a video. What did I cover online? Was it Electronic Getting Away with It, where I needed the 5-string. I wish I played this more. I just don't need the 5-string. I don't play it that much. I should play it more.
If you were in a church band, if you were in the modern church band, the 5-string becomes your best friend. Like
really?
all those church players, like Soraya Reed, and I mean, excellent. These guys are.
Well, you got to go where the vocals aren't.
Yeah, they're just nutty players, and they're all over the place. It's one of those things where I tried. Like, I can play 5 and 6, but I've never had a need for it. So
that's the thing. It's like, I mean, it's cool. It sounds good and it plays good, but I really just don't. I don't need 5. I don't. And also, I move around a lot on stage. This thing is heavy as hell. I want something that's like easily, And then one more, and this I just got set up about a year ago. This is a Kramer from, I think the early 90s. I don't even know. So this is this kind of metal looking.
That's your Rudy Sarzo bass.
Yeah, but you know what? This thing, like, I won't touch it for like a year, and I'll pick it up, and it's barely out of tune.
Wow!
Like, it just sounds great. It feels good. There's a video I put of me doing a little bass solo in Love Shack on this.
You do? You saw that video?
Yeah, I like this bass. It feels good and sounds good. The neck feels good, But honestly,
actually, your solo and just the way you played it, I was surprised at the quality of the sound. Because I'm so used to hearing the metal thunk, thunk, thunk sound that it kind of, I would look at that. If I saw Rudy Sarzo playing it, I wouldn't want to own one. But I saw you playing it, I was like, wow, that thing actually sounds good.
It really does.
Yeah, it's really impressed.
It really does. Yeah. So,
what kind of strings are you using?
DRs I've been using for years.
Nice.
105s.
Nice.
DRs, yeah.
Nice.
They're not like super bright when I put them, but then they don't deaden within like a few months. It's like, to me, it's good value. I like them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, we ask. And amplification.
Amplification. What do you have for amps? We saw the carving in the background, your speakers.
So, right now, well, I've got my gigging cabinet is a DNA, David Nordschow. They endorsed me. I say that loosely because they put me on their site, and I got a little bit of a break, but I love their cabinets, and I don't love Eden gear, and I'm sorry to anyone that does. I don't. And he was one of the founders of Eden, David Nordschow, but he left. Yeah, and he started making cabinets and amplifiers. I don't like his amps really, but his cabinet. I have a 12-inch cabinet with a tweeter and horn that's been everywhere, and I love it. I am gonna give. I'm not married to it yet. I don't know if I'm gonna buy it yet, but it's being lent to me to see if I want to buy it. Andy Fuchs, who's an amp maker.
I know of him.
Okay. So he's making bass amps now, and I played one in the studio a few weeks ago, and I was like, this sounds amazing.
Well, you should become personally acquainted with him, because
I know him pretty well.
The only story I have is that a friend of mine bought a custom Fuchs guitar head, normally about $3,000, and the person he got it from is a quote unquote top player in Dorsey in a mega band on a mega show where the amp was shown. and this guy sold it to my friend, and my friend builds amps, literally builds amps, but something went wrong on a jack and this, and he figured, hey, I'm going to go meet Andy. And Andy basically, I'm going to say it, refused to fix it because he wasn't the original owner of the amp. And he asked where he got the amp because he figured it was stolen. But, you know, whether the guy had a deal to borrow the amp and not sell it, all I know is you better have your receipt with you is the end of the sentence. And not to badmouth anybody, but if something breaks and your name's on it, why don't you just fix the jack?
Yeah, anyway, he was nice enough to lend me this 700 watt.
Am I telling the story right or what? You got an amp for sale?
So we'll see. I was using a carbon head, middle of the line carbon head that I love through my DNA cab. I also have a GK 15-inch combo, which I love. I'm not like, besides my bass looking nice, and it was expensive, but I'm not, to me, it's like what sounds good. I don't care about, I bought a Mesa Boogie. It was really expensive, a combo, played one gig with it. And I'm like, nope, I don't care about the name.
Yeah,
I don't care.
No, they changed.
You know, so
their original stuff was off the chart, you know, and things change in these products. Use any pedals? I
don't. I do have
a
Qtron pedal, but I don't use it much. I have a bass pod, a Line 6 bass pod that I used for a couple of years. No, I think many
Direct
of us,
signal.
maybe you guys can relate as I've gotten older, like I just want stuff I can carry on my own. I don't want to have to like chase down a guy to carry the 10.
True indeed.
Yeah.
You know, also there's the concept of signal loss. So
if you play through pedals. Yeah, no, I don't know. I like playing a 5-string. I don't find the need. I don't feel like, I wish I had, I'm really happy generally with the sound that I'm able to get through my bass and my amps. So
awesome.
I think that starts from your hands and, from your head to your hands into your amp. And whatever's going on, it's really unique and exciting, if I can quote Geddy Lee. And there's a lot of punch in what you're packing, and it's one of the reasons that I reached out and invited you on is your playing is so solid and steady that other people put thousands into a pedal board just to get halfway where you're at. So
that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about this. Let's come into where you are now with the Wankers and Starman. So how did you get involved with both those bands?
They both reached out to me. I had known the singer and the Wankers for years. He had to twist my arm a little bit. I'm not a huge fan. I like playing it. I know this is forever etched in history. Put something online. I like Oasis. I like Coldplay. Don't love them. It was a little bit of a sell. His salesman job, and he is a good salesman. Dave, if you're watching this, you are. Hey, we're going to do some new wave too. And I'm like, okay. And then he said, no, I've got Jason on drums. I said, oh, okay. So that was that. Starman, the drummer I played with me, recommended me for the gig. Both of those, I wasn't like, I had it been in a Cars tribute. I wasn't necessarily chomping at the bit to do another tributes. A lot of times typically travel on the weekends, and I've done my fair share. I don't love to travel every weekend. It's tiring. But both of them, just people knowing people and networking, and the Wankers was a completely pleasant surprise. I thought, all right. He said, just get together once, see how you like it. And now a year later, I'm really enjoying that. I didn't know if I would. I didn't think I would, because I'm not a huge fan of 90s Britpop. But I found it's interesting. Playing something, maybe you guys can relate, is different than listening to it.
It's a big difference.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So
playing it
1,000%.
Yep.
It's the opposite that affects you the wrong way.
Yep. Playing it is fun.
He says
if there's certain things you want to hear you play, you have fun playing it. And then there's things you would rather listen to and not play at all.
Right, right, right. And also the drummer. I mean, I always come back to the drummer. I really enjoy playing with the drummer. So while I don't necessarily love Oasis or Coldplay, playing those songs with a good drummer that
Thank
I'm
you.
locking with, it's like, wow, I'm enjoying it. So,
Okay, let's talk about this. You mentioned earlier that you had a full-time job.
I do. I'm an ESL teacher.
Okay,
English is the second language.
So you're okay. So for you would call yourself a weekend warrior bass player or a weekend warrior.
Yeah,
Okay.
Up until before COVID, I was playing a lot more. It was supplementing my income. I'd say now intentionally less. Um, I just did the hell out of it, and yeah, I'd say weekly definitely. I mean, some weekends I'm traveling, but I have a full-time gig, and that's yeah.
Now, did you ever think in terms of wanting to becoming a full-time bass player, and then realizing that, because as we spoke with a lot of our guests, some are full-time bass players, some are weekend warriors who have full-time jobs. We had one guy who was a bass technician who said he needed the benefits. So, do you find that this lifestyle is not the easiest to maintain?
Yeah, I especially the traveling. I would say, yeah, and being up until 3 in the morning, it's exhausting. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't envy, I see a lot of my friends, people I've known over the years, still playing 2, 3 times a week. A drummer, friend of mine, very excited. He's a couple years older than me, playing 2, 3 times a week, and I'm like, I'm not interested in doing it anymore. It's exhausting, and I love to play. It makes it more special too when I don't play as much. Then the gigs have a little bit more meaning versus just the grind. It's
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it is a lot of work, and I do not aspire and haven't in years to do it full time. I mean, I think I could the wedding band route, the tribute band route, but zero aspiration to do that. No.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because when I see a lot of these bands play now, I'd say 80% of them look like they don't want to be there.
Yep.
They look tired. They're exhausted. They're just, you can just tell they're just drained. They're like, all right, everyone celebrate.
Right. And it's because they probably played the night before. They worked all day or God knows what. But yeah, it's and I was that too. I mean, I could fake it pretty well, but it's like, I don't know. No, the older I get, it's like, nah. And that's awesome. I'm happy for people that are doing it a lot and love it. But I wasn't loving it as much, playing bars every weekend.
Touring I will say touring is a young person's game. It really is. It's like being an athlete, where you like a football player, baseball, whatever you have literally between a 3 and 5 year opportunity to bang things out and accomplish much you can possibly accomplish. Because after a while, like when I see these guys who are still on the road, like I'm a video director in the theater district, but every once in a while I'll work at a city field and I'll see all these old guys in the background, bad posture, bad health. And I'm talking to them. I'm like, "How long have you been doing this for?" I've been doing this. I've been on the road for the last 35 years. And you're like, "How old are you, dude?" Just turned 55, and you're like, "Yeah, you look like you're like 80, dude." Yeah, I look at that. I go, I don't envy these guys. Like I don't envy them. Like even when I'm watching, I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of happy. I wish I was on stage, but when the show's over, they have to break everything down. I'm not so interested.
Nope.
But just from the other side, because it's not all a bad thing, and it's not like I've been on the road for 35 years, but that time you're on stage is irreplaceable. That when you're on stage and you're playing, you hit lotto. And I mean, I'm playing to crickets, I'm playing to nobody, I'm playing to bartenders, and I put my gigs on Facebook so that my mom in Florida can catch up with me and she can see me play. Is, she can't get to the show. And the only thing that I can tell you from my perspective of playing, I don't know, since 1990 at this point, is the adrenaline rush is irreplaceable when I'm putting it out there on stage. And whether there are people in front of me or not in front of me, I knew in January to February, I voluntarily took a month off from my band, and I missed it. It isn't like I wasn't going to go play somewhere else, because I ended up going back with them, but that hour and a half, that 3 hours of plugging in, letting loose, and nobody telling me to turn down is worth it. No matter how much I can bitch and crab about getting there, what I'm getting paid, are they going to beer us? Are they going to feed us? At the end of the day, plugging in and slamming on it really makes me happy.
Yeah,
and I'm going to admit that here on Case for Bass therapy session. So,
okay. All right. My last question to you is this: what would you tell an aspiring musician who wants to get into this game that we call the music entertainment business?
Do it because you love it, and practice your ass off. Practice, and don't do it for anyone else but you. And if you don't love the practicing and that part of it, and just the grind of just getting better at your craft, and you don't get pleasure from that, then that's you got to want to do it internally, and you just got to persevere and love what you do.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would say.
Awesome.
And also, there's no boundary. I just don't believe. I don't care. You want to play original music, as long as you don't have any aspirations. I think people get disappointed, maybe young people, because it's now, especially to make a living. It's like, do it because you love it. Do it because you want to do it, without this golden ticket as a carrot. Do it for you.
Awesome. Awesome. I want to bring my cat on. My cat.
Oh, you got the first cat?
The first cat,
Oh,
yes. Zeus.
I got one sleeping on the side, and one almost came up.
Zeus is trying to run away, but Zeus is now making.
He or she? What's their name?
That's Zeus?
That's Zeus. Yeah. Zeus was originally. I thought Zeus was a girl at first, and then found out later that he was a boy. So Zeus. Yeah, Zeus.
They don't know the difference.
No, Zeus used to be. Zeus and Hercules used to be Zoe and Hallie. And then I brought him to the vet and found out that Zoe was an actual Zeus, and Hallie was an actual Hercules.
Oh,
and I remember calling a friend of mine, going, "Are you sure they're girls, man? They fight like dudes." And she's like, "No."
I have a female cat. She can be nasty. Yep. She could be nasty. Pips. I love cats. I'm a cat.
Yeah. Yep. Well, bass people seem to be cat people. It's a very common theme.
All right, Helena Holmes from Wankers and
thank you.
Starman.
Thank you for being on the show. And Starman, thank you for being on the show.
And Facebook. Catch her on Facebook.
Catch her on Facebook. You'll see a lot of cool videos, and you're just kind of rocking it out there. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you for a great talk.